Taking what is essentially Pokemon Snap mixed with Keen and Bridge of Spirits, Creatures of Ava is a stunning open-world adventure about trying to save this distant planet from a dangerous infection. Using your arsenal of tools to befriend and partner up with a variety of wild beasts in a peaceful and gentle way is a tremendous amount of fun. And though the game sometimes makes decisions that benefit the story over player enjoyment or completionist desires, my 20-ish hours in Creatures of Ava were well spent. Hey there, I'm CGDannyB, and I really like indie games, and like sharing them with you guys. And today you're watching my review of Creatures of Ava. Now before we get into the review, I want to give a huge shout out to the teams over at Inverge Studios and Evolve PR for setting me up with an early copy of the game so that I can give you my impressions, thoughts, and opinions today. Also, real quick, if you could do me a huge favor and like the video, it'd really help the channel grow so I can continue to showcase awesome indie games. And if we could reach that 4K subscriber goal by the end of the year, well, that'd be pretty darn nifty, don't you think? Anyway, now that I'm sure you've liked the video, let's talk about Creatures of Ava. After landing on an undiscovered planet, the young nature explorer Vic sets out to learn more about the strange planet. And perhaps she's preparing to jump from the battle bus, because you cannot convince me that she does not look like she belongs to the Fortnite item shop.
Don't forget to use code CGDannyB at checkout.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, after bumbling around for a while, we learn Ava is inhabited by a bunch of peculiar, yet adorable creatures. Unfortunately though, Ava is also infected by this plague known as the Withering. The Withering is infecting not just the creatures of this planet, but also the planet itself. Now Vic, along with her smarty pants pal Tabitha, make it their goal to cleanse the planet, extract these poor creatures, and make Ava a safe place once again. However, there's another species on this planet, the Nom. They are particularly welcome to you at first, but eventually you'll meet your new buddy Namar. And though he's very set on making sure that his people stay happy, he's willing to come along with you while you explore his home. Now you head out into the various biomes of Ava, and fill out your Avapedia with pictures as well as data on each specific creature you find, from the pure ones to the infected ones. Eventually you'll discover more and more about this planet, as well as its people and the Withering, but also a little bit about yourself. I genuinely had a blast experiencing the story of Creatures of Ava. Now there were a lot of dialogue moments that sort of felt like an old person prolonging a conversation that you didn't really want to be a part of, so you sort of just drifted into another world until the conversation's over. But the cutscenes and important narrative beats had my full attention and kept me invested from start to finish. And by the time I rolled credits, I think the story of Ava says a lot about the distinction between helping others for our own self-gratification and actually doing it for the benefit of those around us. As you crash land on this new planet, you'll discover Creatures of Ava plays very similarly to a lot of other third-person action platformers. After a fairly linear tutorial and meeting your adventuring companion, you'll pick up the Nafatar, a magical staff and your primary tool while exploring Ava. Now compared to other games similar to Creatures of Ava, combat is not an option. Your goal on this planet is to tame and befriend these creatures without bringing harm to them. So with the Nafatar, you'll use his magical beam of light to soothe the infected creatures and eventually become allies with them. And once you're partnered up with these little dudes, they'll lend you their powers to help you explore. There's not a thought in those eyes. And the powers of these creatures vary from things as simple as knocking down bridges or opening closed off areas, while some are more complex, such as clogging dangerous obstacles or singing to weird plants to find potions and other items. You also unlock a collection of abilities for this cool staff of yours, allowing you to slow down obstacles, lift them into the air, or even buff your own powers for a few seconds in the midst of battle. Yeah, I know I said you're not here to fight, but try telling that to the infected monsters whose turf you just stepped into. These encounters sort of have a Luigi's Mansion type style to them, where you have to connect your beam to the creature and keep it tethered to them while they're bucking around and trying to hit you. My only real minor nitpicks with the combat is that sometimes your staff just won't connect to the creatures because the terrain's a little bit bumpy, as well as the dialogue can be a bit jarring. Yeah, surely if a little pug-shaped guy is headbutting me in the shin, I'll say something like,
"Hey, I'm just trying to help you."
But when a giant-ass T-Rex is trying to eat me alive, I think I'd be a bit more panicked than that. Now, perhaps you got lucky and ran into a few creatures who haven't been infected yet. Awesome, but they don't see humans around here often, so they aren't quite ready to start cuddling up to you just yet. This is where your trusty flute comes into play. Each creature of Ava has their own melody that makes them feel comfortable with you, meaning they'll join your team and help you wherever you need them to. As you begin to study each beast, you hear them sing their own melody, and now it's time for you to play it back to them. My fear for this mechanic was that I was going to start to get lost in the sauce and forget which creature sang what song and eventually get tired of it. But I was shocked at how simple it was to pick up playing the flute, and even more shocked at how some of these melodies I'd have committed to memory. Each section of Ava is split into smaller zones, each containing a set amount of each available creature who can't leave that area. So once you've checked every nook and cranny available, you'll find these little robot dudes lying around on the ground, who will send your new friends off to your spaceship, giving them a safe new home off of this infected planet. Now I do have quite a few issues with the creature collecting process. For example, sometimes the creatures would get stuck in geometry, and I couldn't get them out. So if I needed to open a gate and the only creature in the zone who could do it was stuck in a rock, I was out of luck without having to reload a save or respawning from death. But probably the issue I had the most trouble with was the finality of sending creatures away to your ship. As I mentioned earlier, each zone of the game has a preset amount of animals, so if I'm trying to send these little guys away as I'm finding them, they're gone forever. So not only does this repeat the last issue I had with creatures getting stuck, but it also prevents you from finishing the Avapedia. For example, this little guy is a Hizmet, the little head-shaped guys who fly around and can clog these poison pods that can hurt you. Now, by the time I was wrapping up the area that you can find the Hizmets in, I hadn't clogged enough of the pods to finish their entry. So I hit a point where basically I couldn't finish this section of the encyclopedia without restarting the game. Now, before this sounds like a major issue, this does not prevent you from completing the game. So if you're still aiming to reach the end, that's not an issue. And as a PlayStation trophy hunter, playing a game that's currently not on my preferred platform, it was a noticeable issue, but not the end of the world. But for my Steam and Xbox achievement hunters out there, I think this is an important thing to note as you're playing through the game. Before you finish up any particular area, the game gives you a major warning that this area will now be closed off, meaning you cannot come back here and find collectibles, upgrades, or finish side quests. Now, if you recall, I mentioned at the top of the video that the game sometimes makes decisions that benefits the story over player enjoyment. This is primarily what I'm talking about. Yes, once you play the game and experience things that I won't spoil for you here, this makes complete and total sense. But for someone like me who had to finish the game for a deadline, or perhaps a regular player who doesn't necessarily want to explore more of this area right now, this is sort of a bummer. The storyteller in me absolutely loves this. It fits so well with the narrative of the game. But as someone who typically likes to roll credits, then go back and clean up after the fact, Creatures of Ava doesn't really allow you to do that. Thankfully, the game gives you a warning so you don't have to worry about accidentally locking yourself out of the area before you're ready. It just sort of limits how you may choose to explore. Now, forgive me for sounding a bit hypocritical for a second, but seriously, I loved this game. I know I've made a lot of critiques and complaints here, but I think it's important to note the things that are less than stellar about the experience. However, the fact that I listed all of these issues and still am ready to tell you to play Creatures of Ava should really show a lot. The pure bliss of exploring these otherworldly biomes as I'm getting distracted by every flickering light, buildable zipline, and cute little guy who I need to purify and pet before heading towards my major objective. Experiencing a story that's coded in fiction, but reflects so much on the reality of the world around us, felt so poignant yet heartwarming at the same time. I think Creatures of Ava has some growing pains for sure, but the comfort of being able to sit back and venture forth was incredible. I've spent just under 20 hours playing Creatures of Ava, and with more content, I could easily commit to 20 more. Even with the 4 major areas in Creatures of Ava, there is so much to complete and so many places to explore. Yes, for completionists, there are a few pretty significant hiccups for those who don't necessarily want to have to do a second playthrough. But even just the experience of living in this world and examining the cute, disgusting, scary, and downright goofy looking creatures was enough for me to want to recommend this game to fans of the creature catching genre. If you're interested in checking out Creatures of Ava for yourself, it releases on Steam and Xbox starting on Wednesday, August 7th. Also, if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, it'll be available on there as well. So be sure to let me know in the comments if you're going to check out Creatures of Ava for yourself when it releases. Once again, I want to give a huge shout out to the team behind the game for giving me a chance to play the game a bit early. And also thank you guys for watching the video. If it's your first time here and you don't want to miss out on any more epic indie gaming content, be sure to subscribe, because otherwise this may be the last time we ever see each other, and that'd be really sad. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.